أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. All praise is indeed due to Allah, who has gathered us here, who has made us part of His beautiful deen, who has given us understanding of His beautiful deen. And all peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our great teacher, the benefactor of humanity, the guide, the supreme guide for all of us. This topic is a very, very important topic, and it's a topic which you will find there will be areas which are very controversial. And I just completed my book, or is a chapter of a big, big book. The big book is about 1,600 pages, but this particular chapter is on interaction with other faiths. It's about 250 to 300 pages long. And the reason that I chose this topic to spend the last 2 years writing about is because there are so many misunderstandings and miscommunications and misconceptions out there among Muslims regarding how one should interact with non-Muslims. We have forgotten really the prophetic way and how the Prophet ﷺ and how the Sahaba interacted with people of other faiths. So it's a very, very important area. And when I say we have forgotten, I don't mean just us, the arm, the Joe public. I mean also our scholars. And when you look at the fatwa on this subject, the fatwas, the verdicts by scholars, honestly it is shocking. And, mind-boggling how scholars of great knowledge, and indeed they are great knowledge, many who've passed away, may Allah bless them all, because it was an effort of theirs to reach these fatwas. But these fatwas, when you look at the writings and the dalils they offer, it seems amazing how they could ever have arrived at such a conclusion. Now, partly that's the reason why I chose this topic, because it is a topic which extremists flourish in. The world of extremism wants to create an us and them mentality. It wants to divide. It wants to say Muslims and kuffar. It wants to divide the world into two. And it wants to divide our neighborhoods into two. And so when you read the particular bits and bobs about friendship to non-Muslims, can you harm non-Muslims? Can you cheat non-Muslims? Can you backbite non-Muslims? You'll find fatwas on all of this. So in the book that I did, I found fatwas which said, take every opportunity and cheat non-Muslims. Whereas the Quran is clear about honesty and about integrity, yet they have somehow found a way using Quran and Hadith to come and arrive at their conclusion that they have. So it is quite an appalling area, really. And some of the things that I'm going to say may seem uncomfortable even to people here, because even for me it was a learning curve. So let's begin right at the outset with the beautiful ayah the brother recited for us at the beginning. And let's come to a conclusion based on that ayah, that differences, and it's a fundamental principle in Islam, that differences in humanity are God created. Allah created differences. So Allah created people into different nations and so on. Why? So that they can know each other. And Allah says in the Quran, had He willed, He could have made them all one community, one group of believers. So what do we conclude from that? We conclude that Allah did not will this. Because Allah says, had I willed, I could have done this. In other words, Allah did not will this. In other words, Allah did not want to create one single community on earth. He wanted difference. And so the first fundamental principle is that diversity, different cultures, beliefs, ways of life, languages, are all from Allah. And that's a very, very important point. You have to forgive me. I was blessed over the last 3 weeks to do my Umrah, alhamdulillah. So I've got the muck and cough, as they say, the famous muck and cough. Number two, the second principle, is that we are all Bani Adam, the children of Adam. Now if I said to you, here's my father and I'm his son, and here's someone else who's his son, what does that make us?
Brothers.
Brothers. Yeah, and here's his daughter, sisters, brother and sister. Yeah? We are all the children of Adam alayhi salam, the first man on earth, Adam alayhi salam, our father. You stretch back all of our family trees and trace them back, you'll come to one person, Adam alayhi salam. Whether you're black from Africa, whether you're from an Aborigine from Australia, whether you're Chinese from China, whether you're a European, English, whatever you are, you trace your family tree back, you come to one man and one woman. Adam and Hawa. May Allah be pleased with them. Only two people, mother and father. It makes us all sitting here brothers. But very importantly, it makes all of us, Muslim and non-Muslim, brothers and sisters. My neighbor, on both sides actually, one side is David and Carol, and on the other side is Carol. She's my sister. He is my brother, and she's my sister. You see, the beauty of why Allah created us from one soul is that we are all a family in humanity, not in religion, in humanity. Our brotherhood here is a brotherhood of belief. So we are brothers because of our deen. With David, I'm his brother because of humanity. With my brother, my blood brother, I'm his brother because of blood. So these are all different relationships. So it's very important to realize this, that non-Muslims are our brothers and sisters. Because if you have that concept, that diversity was created by Allah, and number two, we are all from the same mother and father, then it takes you a bit more harder for you to adopt an extremist viewpoint. The third principle, the third principle is linked to the first. And it is that Allah has given us a very beautiful gift. The gift to decide for ourselves what we want to do. He's given us free will. We choose. We choose whether to do right or wrong. We choose whether to believe or not to believe. So it's a gift from Allah to us. Because as we said before, the ayah in the Quran says, had Allah willed, He could have made us all the same. But He didn't. He could have made us angels. Because angels are the same. But He didn't. He gave us something which angels don't have. He gave us one better than angels. He gave us free will, the ability to choose. And what does that mean? It means in every society you have people who will choose truth and you have people who will not choose truth. Once you have choice, you will always get people who will choose different things. So it leads to principle one. You'll get differences. So it is a godly gift. It's a gift from God, the right of someone to choose their faith. The Quran says, very, very important principle, let there be no compulsion in faith. Allah does not compel us to believe. There is no force in believing. We do not force anyone to believe. It's up to them. We invite them. We say, here is the Quran, please read it. We invite them to programs. We invite them to whatever, give them books, literature, talks. But the switch is up to them. We don't hold a gun to someone's head and say the Shahada. Because that's not from here. Because if I held a gun to someone's head who's a non-Muslim and say the Shahada, repeat after me, La ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and he repeats it, is he Muslim now? No. Because his lips have said something his heart does not believe. Right? Because belief is in here, not in here. Faith is in the heart, not in the tongue. When Ammar bin Yasir, radiyallahu anhu, when he was tortured in Mecca, they said to him to denounce Allah and to say one of their idols was God. So in extreme pain, because his mother, as you know, Sumayya, radiyallahu anha, she was martyred, the first martyr in Islam. His father was martyred, and now they were picking on him. And so in extreme pain, he said the words. And he came crying to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if they do this to you again, say it again. There is no blame. There is no blame on you if you're forced, because what's forced comes from here, not from here. So it's a very important principle. And that's why, one reason you see why Islamic empires flourished so brilliantly throughout the majority of our history, with a few exceptions, the reason why you see it is because of this principle. Islam said, the empires, the states, Islamic states said, Islam is the religion of the state, but of course you're free to believe what you want to believe. Are you Christian? You're free to worship in your church by all means. You need alcohol for your religion, no problem. Set up a brewery, but you can't sell to the Muslims. You need pigs for your, you believe in your Sharia, in your law, you eat pig, no problem. Swine, no problem. Set up your pig farms. No problem. You're Jewish, you need synagogues. So go ahead. It's the beauty of Islam. It did not compel religion to anyone. And they were shocked. I mean, such is the beauty that even for so long, although we've had much, even within Islam, we respected different denominational views. People prayed, people did Rafadain, people did not. 4 madhabs prayed together. You had Shia, Sunni, you had Sufi, non-Sufi, all together. When you go to Al-Azhar in Egypt, one of the oldest seminaries for Muslim scholarship, it's beautiful. You'll see madrasas where they taught the Shafi madhab, and the Hanafi madhab, and the Maliki madhab, and the Hanbali madhab, and the Jafri madhab for the Shia. All there, side by side in the same institute. Because even though we acknowledge all that, but even within we allowed our tolerance for different opinions. There's a very, very important principle. So that's principle number 3. No compulsion in faith. In fact, it's a godly principle. If any Muslim stops someone and compels them, actually he's acting against God. Because he's acting against that principle. Why did the Prophet ﷺ, why did he suffer in Mecca? Because the Quraysh did not follow that principle. He's going against our father's religion. We worship these stone gods and these other gods. With this what we worship. He's going against, he's causing trouble. Kill him, fight him, torture him. Get his people. So these non-Muslim Quraysh disbelievers did not follow this principle of, yeah, whatever he wants to believe, that's fine. They went against this principle. That's why the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba suffered in Makkah. The fourth principle now, when it comes to interaction with the faiths, a very important one. It is that it is easy to pick up an ayah from the Quran and say, right, that's it. That's what we follow. Because you might be skewed off track. And so the fourth principle says, whatever hadith and ayah you pick, on that subject, pick all of them. Put them on the table and see what all of them together are saying. Never allow someone to take you off by just using one piece of evidence. Because that's easy to do. You can really twist religion by using one piece of evidence. No, get all the hadith. If you want to know about interaction with the Prophet ﷺ of Islam with non-Muslims, let's find all the hadith that there are about how the Prophet ﷺ interacted with non-Muslims. Let's find all the ayahs in this beautiful book, the Book of Allah, to do with that subject. And then let's put them out and see, okay, what does it fit? How does it fit? Let's not take one. And that's what extremists do. They take something out of the whole picture. They don't want to let you see the whole picture. They just want you to see a little bit. They're very important. Now, these are fundamental principles. Let's now go back to the beginning and try and understand a few things before I go into one particular arena. Let me ask you a question. Allah sent the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He is the last prophet. He was sent to Arabia 14 centuries or so ago. How many prophets were there? Anybody? How many prophets were there?
Roughly 124,000.
One hadith tells us, the hadith is weak, but it still gives us an indication. It tells us 124,000 prophets. I mean, that's a lot. How many do the Quran mention? 25, roughly, 25. So who's good at maths? How many left then? How many have not been mentioned?
Lost.
123,975 prophets. So let me say that again. 123,975 prophets have not been mentioned. Where were they sent? Who were they sent to? Anybody know? Where were these prophets sent to? Anybody? They were sent to the Chinese, to the Aborigines, to the Eskimos, to the Aztecs, to the Incas, because Allah says in the Quran, 3-4 places, to every nation and every community we sent a prophet. No community did we destroy until we had sent them a messenger. So again and again Allah is saying in the Quran, every community throughout our history, here and there, wherever they were, Eskimos in Alaska, wherever they lived, they were sent a prophet. What is a prophet? A prophet is someone who has a communication with God, direct. He's a man of God. Prophet's level is higher than all of ours. And these great people were sent to all these people. Now, why am I saying this? Because from here comes very interesting concepts. Everybody knows this. But let me ask you a question now. Because that's what I was trying to do in the book, trying to figure out. Because what did these prophets have to do? What did they do? Imagine this prophet. Was he sent, did he, to the Eskimos in Alaska? You know Eskimos, big snow, yeah? 4-foot snow, snowy mountains, snow everywhere. And there they are living in their igloos or whatever they lived in. And a prophet was sent to them. What did this prophet so come down from heaven one day and land in the middle of there? Did he? How did it happen then? He was one of them. He was born in that place. He was an Eskimo. He was an Eskimo. And then one day he had revelation from God. And so he went and he told his people about God. He was a prophet of God. So let me ask you a question then. What did he eat? What's he eating? What's he eating? What they ate. He's eating Eskimo food. He's a prophet of God who's eating Eskimo food. Because he's an Eskimo. All the people around him, they're not Muslim. He's Muslim because he's accepted, as we know. Muslim doesn't mean someone who's accepted because we know before from Adam al-Islam. Adam al-Islam was a Muslim. Muslim means one who submits to God. He's Muslim and around him are non-Muslims, aren't they? He's interacting with non-Muslim. He's eating what they're eating. He's a prophet of God eating what they're eating. What's he wearing?
What they wear.
What they wear? You sure? You sure he wasn't wearing a jubbah? It's very interesting. Prophet of God in Eskimo, un-Eskimo, among Eskimos, wearing Eskimo clothing. Living with them, calling them to God. So let me ask you, what is his sunnah regarding libas, dress? What's the sunnah of that Nabi? Is to wear what his non-Muslim people around him wear. Is that correct? We have 25 prophets mentioned in the Quran, correct? Yes. Do we have any prophet mentioned in the Quran where his people say, "Who are you dressed in this funny way?" No, we don't. In other words, they were all dressed in the way of their people. So let's leave this Nabi to his people. Let's move across the globe. Let's go to China. Ancient China. Most likely, Allah knows best, most likely the Prophet was sent to them. What was he wearing? Ancient Chinese clothing. As long as it covered the aura, ancient Chinese clothing. And he called to God. What was his sunnah then? To wear what the non-Muslim people of his wear. It's very interesting. 124,000 prophets, if we take the hadith. What did they all wear? They all wore what the non-Muslims in their communities wore. How can I say this for sure? Well, because not one single evidence do we have of any people saying, "Who are you telling us about this religion? Look what you're wearing. You're wearing different clothing to us." Not one of them. In other words, they were wearing what the people around them wore. So what is the sunnah of the Anbiya? The sunnah of all the prophets is to wear what non-Muslims around them will, as long as the Sharia is fulfilled. The aura is covered. Now let's come to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last prophet. Let's ask ourselves a question. Did he also then wear and follow this sunnah of the rest of the Anbiya? Did our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, did he wear what the non-Muslims around him wore? Is that right? Did he? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. No one, if you read the seerah, and you've got many to choose from, Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Hisham, you've got all these seerahs to read. Not one seerah book says, he who was wearing different clothing to us. They call him a magician. They call him a soothsayer, a poet. He's bewitching you. Stay away from this man. He's causing trouble. The non-Muslims attack him. They use poetry to attack him. Yet not one of them says, you know the one with the funny clothes. Why is that? Because he wasn't wearing funny clothes. He was wearing what they, the non-Muslims, were wearing. What is his sunnah? What is the sunnah regarding interaction with non-Muslims for a Muslim? It is to wear what non-Muslims wear. That's shocking. And I know it's controversial to some people, but I can't find anything else to say anything else. When I look through the books and I look through I can't find any other way to look at this. All the Anbiya wore. Why? Because the message is important to get across. And the message you will get across if you're part of the people. When Shuaib came to his people, the great prophet, Allah describes him, he said, we sent Shuaib, to his people we sent their brother. So Allah describes him as his brother, as his people. He says, Ya Qawmi, O my people, all of them, O my people, because they're part of the very fabric of that society. So very important principles these are. Very difficult for us because we've had almost 13 centuries of people telling us, no, Sunnah is actually this. But actually when we try and understand it, it's difficult. It's difficult. I met a scholar. He was from Kuwait. And he arrived in London almost about 15 years ago. He was an old man. And he came to Britain for the first time. He spoke in Arabic. I couldn't understand him. He came to give a talk in Regent Park Mosque. So I went to see him. And the introduction was given by Yusuf Islam, who used to be part of that mosque committee at that time. And I sat at the back. He came in, and there was a gasp in the audience. And some people walked out. He hadn't said a word yet. So then he spoke in his old, frail voice, and that's where I got this idea originally from. He said, maybe some people have left because of what I'm wearing. Because we're wearing a suit. A Western suit. He said, maybe people have left because of what I'm wearing. I have never worn a suit before. It's first time for me. I come from Kuwait. It's my first time in the West. But when I came here, before I was coming, I asked someone, what do non-Muslims in London wear? And they said they wear suits. So I asked them to buy me a suit because I wanted to follow the sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I took off my jubbah and my turban and I put on my suit because I wanted to follow the sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why people were shocked. Couldn't understand this. I can't understand this. But when you look at the overall picture, it makes sense. Now, there's a big topic, interaction with other faiths. Huge topic. And when you look at all the different aspects of it, I want to now touch on one aspect because I find it very common. The summer before, we have 9 mosques in Halifax, and every Friday I go to a different mosque. So I just see what's happening, what people are doing, and so on. So that particular Friday was a summer holidays, and I was in one of the mosques. And the Imam stood up, excuse me, and he gave a talk, Friday prayer, and he said, today I'm going to talk to you about a different topic than what was originally planned. Because I am shocked. Last night I was with one of you in your houses for dinner. And I turned to his son, who happened to be about 13 years old. And I said to him, how is school? And he said, it's fine, it's good. And I said, good, what's your favorite subject? And he said, well, me and Tom, we like science best because I'm with Tom for science and maths. So I said, who's this Tom? He said, he's my best friend. And the Imam said, La hawla wa la quwwata. Is this what's happened to us, that we now have friends who are kuffar? Is this what's wrong with us today? Have we stooped so low to have friends who are non-Muslim? And for the next 20 minutes or so, he gave a really hard line on not having friends. And it was Friday, it was Jummah, and I was just sitting there looking at all the kids sitting there thinking, oh my God, and probably feeling so guilty that they've got such and such who's a friend. He's got such and such who's a friend. I was shocked. Yet this is a message that keeps on coming. So I want to talk about friendship, the whole issue about friendship in the last sort of 10-15 minutes. And I want to give you, because I have lots of these now, but let me just tell you how common this is. This is a big fatwa. And it's a fatwa given by some big scholars. And let me make something absolutely clear. And we have to be very clear about this. We may research something and we may follow a particular view on a matter, an Islamic view. But let us never disparage, look down on another view. We don't do that. We may differ with each other on different matters, but we love each other as brothers. So these scholars who've given this fatwa, I don't agree at all with this fatwa. But they are my brothers and they are my seniors and they are my scholars. They are brilliant, big scholars. So we respect them for their scholarship. But we may not agree with what they say. Now this poor chap, young boy, must be, this is his question. And he's asked this question in a big website, fatwa website. And he asks, in the Quran it says that we cannot take the kuffar as awliya and friends. But what does that mean? I mean, to what degree? Sheikh, can I, if I'm at school, can I play basketball with them? Can I talk to them about basketball? Can I sit down and eat with them during the lunch break? Decent question. So this is then 2 pages answer to that. And the Shaykh begins, praise be to Allah. Firstly, Allah has forbidden the believers to take the kafirs as friends. And He has issued a stern warning against doing so. Allah says, and He now quotes the famous ayah, Surah 5, Surah Ma'idah, verse 51. O you who believe, take not the Jews and Christians as friends. They are but friends of each other. And if any of you take them as friends, then surely he is one of them. Verily Allah guides not those people who are wrongdoers. Clear? Can't take them as friends. And then he carries on. He's saying in this verse, Allah tells whoever takes Jews and Christians as friends is one of them. Then he gives the other verse, Surah Mumtahana, Surah 60, verse 13. O you who believe, take not as friends the people who incurred the wrath of Allah, i.e. the Jews and Christians. Surah Al-Imran, Surah 3, verse 28. Let not the believers take the disbelievers as their friends. So many ayahs. And then he says, the verse explains, these verses explain, they forbid the taking of kafirs as friends in general terms. Okay? Eating with a kafir is haram. It is not haram if it is necessary to do so, if there is a shari reason for doing so. But you should not eat with them for no shari reason. So you can play basketball with them if there's a shari reason for you to play basketball, but if there's no shari reason, you cannot play basketball with them. I mean, this is what I wanted to talk to you last 10 minutes about, because I think for a lot of people, if you type on the Sheikh Google, you'll come out with all these different opinions. And it's important to get this right. There are 6 verses that discuss this issue. Surah 3, verse 28, Surah 3, verse 118, Surah 4, verse 138, believers, those who take as friends disbelievers rather than believers. Do not take for your intimate friends those that seek to ruin you. Believers do not make disbelievers their friends. Surah 4, verse 144. O you who believe, do not take the disbelievers instead of believers as your friends. And Surah 60, verse 1. O you who believe, do not take my enemies and your enemies as friends. And of course, Surah 5, verse 51, which is the most famous. O you who believe, take not the Jews and Christians to be your friends. Now, who knows what the word for friend in these 6 verses are? Awliya. Have you had this talk before? Awliya. Now, that's an interesting word, awliya. So in the book that I've done, I did a table of about 20 different translators, how they translate that word. Pickthall, Asad, and all the different ones, yeah? What's interesting is they differ. Friends, friends and protectors, allies, sponsors, all these different words come up. Intimates. So what does awliya actually mean? Does it mean friends? Hi John, have I taken my as awliya now? Is that what it is? So what is awliya? Do you want to give a 5-a-side football, Tom? Is he my awliya now? Is he a friend? What is a friend? So it's an interesting question. So let me just now go through different points here. Very important points. Because remember the 4th principle we said. We do not take isolated verses. We need to take the whole thing and look at it and shake it. The first is that there are 3 other words that the Quran uses for friend. Use the word hamim. Friend. Surah 70, verse 10. Yet no friend on that day. You will have no friend on that day. Hamim. Of course, Abu Bakr as-Sadiq. Sadiq is friend. And we have Surah 26, verse 101. Again, Sadiq, using for a friend. Of course, the closest word for friend, the bosom friend, nothing comes close, is Khalil. That's why the special title, Ibrahim al-Islam, Khalilullah, friend of Allah. And friend doesn't really cut it. I mean, it is the most beloved friend, Khalil. Surah 25, verse 27 uses the word Khalil. Yet Allah doesn't use Hamim, Sadiq or Khalil in any of these 6 verses. That's very interesting. In all these 6 verses where Allah forbids you for taking friends, Allah uses the word awliya, wali. Yeah, awliya, wali, from which we get Mawla, Mawlana. Yeah, our protector, our ally, our leader, our master, Mawlana. Yet Allah didn't use Hamim, Sadiq or Khalil in these 6. That's very fascinating for me. Why didn't Allah say, "O you who believe, take not the Jews and Christians as your Khalils or your Sadiqs or your Hamims"? Didn't use the word awliya. Number 2, when it says, "Take not the Jews and Christians to be your awliya," to be your walis, does that mean all Jews and Christians? Or does it mean specific Jews and Christians? "O you who believe, take not the disbelievers," the kuffar, the kafirun, "as your friends." Does that mean all disbelievers or certain disbelievers? Very important question. If it's all, if it's am, then it's everybody. If it's khas, it's specific. So which one? Well, then these verses then tell us. Surah 3 verse 118, which was one of the verses, then carry on. "Do not take for your walis those who seek to ruin you." They want to ruin you. Their hatred is evident for you. So they hate you. Yeah? Let's actually read it. It's fascinating ayah. Right? "Do not, O you who believe, do not take for your," he uses intimate friends. And who is it? This one? Shakir. Shakir uses the word intimate friends, "from among others than your own people. They do not fall short of inflicting loss upon you," i.e., they'll do everything to make sure you suffer. These disbelievers, everything they'll do to make you suffer. They love what hurts you, what distresses you. So which disbelievers can you not take as friends? Those that love what hurts you. Vehement hatred has appeared from out of their mouths. They always speak hatred against you. And what their breasts conceal is greater still. So that's just what you heard from their mouths. Inside their heart, oh my God, they hate you. They despise you. This is the disbelievers with whom you don't make friends. The guy you're playing basketball with, is he one of these? Is he always full of hatred against Muslims, etc., etc.? No. He probably doesn't even know about Islam. So it's very important to realize that these 6 verses are not general. They're specific. They ridicule, other verses tell you, and it's very important to, if you read Surah 5, Surah Ma'idah 51 to 59, you'll see all the different descriptions. They ridicule your religion. They take joy in your ruin. They're happy when you get... Well, I'll be honest with you, if I had a Muslim friend who thought that, I'm not going to be his friend. So if I had a Muslim guy who always hated my guts, hated me, despised me, spoke against me, well, I'm not going to be his mate, I'm not a fool. Let alone a non-Muslim. So this issue is about enmity, hatred. Really, when you re-look at these 6 verses, you're reading, "O you who believe, take not your enemy as your friends." Not the average non-Muslim. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is a beautiful ayah. Surah Mumtahina, Surah 60, verse 8. Very important ayah for people to read. Let me just get it for you. Allah does not forbid you respecting those non-Muslims who have not made war against you on account of your religion and have not driven you out of your homes, that you show them kindness and deal with them justly. Surely Allah loves the doers of justice. And the word Allah uses is tabarru, bir, goodness, righteousness. So Allah is saying, those non-Muslims who don't hurt you, show them kindness. In other words, no problem with being friends with them. Allah is talking about don't be friends, don't be fools of being a friend with someone who hates you. You're a fool. Because they are bent on your destruction. Don't do that. So that's a very important ayah. When the Prophet ﷺ got his message, the first wahi, and I climbed that mountain with my children, what's it called?
Yeah.
Jabal-e-Nur. Yeah, so we climbed it 10 days ago. And actually, I must admit, I was quite upset when I was climbing it. Because I could not understand that people climb it out of love for the Prophet ﷺ and with a view to find in history where he was and etc. So people are climbing with their bottles of water, drinking it and then throwing it. There's masses, piles of rubbish. I don't get it. Why are you climbing the mountain if this is your attitude to the place where he, our beloved, got his first revelation? And how dare you, as you go up, pick up your pen and your marker and you write Hussein was here. And there's graffiti all the way. It's terrible. But we climbed it. And that's where the Prophet ﷺ received his first revelation. 14 centuries ago. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. Had he not received those revelations, I wouldn't be here. Neither would you. There'd be no mosque. We owe everything to him. When he came down that mountain, where did he run to? His wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. Where did she send him? Waraqah bin Nawfal, a Christian man, she sent him to. Am I not allowed to be friends with Waraqah? It's absurd to think anybody to say, no, you can't. When the Muslims in Makkah were so oppressed, where did the Prophet send them to? Abyssinia. And who was the king that protected them? Najashi. He was Christian. Later on he became Muslim, but at that time he was Christian. Can I not be friends with Najashi? The good Christian king. The Prophet ﷺ said, go to his land, for he is a good Christian king, and no one is wronged there. Can you not be friends with him? Point number 4. These ayahs also say, do not take disbelievers instead of believers. So also there is a point of, you have friends here, and you deliberately choose non-Muslims and avoid Muslims. Well, then there's something wrong with you. Then there's something wrong with you, because why are you avoiding Muslims? So that's also a bit about in this ayah, rather than, instead of. So, oh, Muslim, don't do this. You've got your own kind as well, people who are your own belief. Be friends with both, but don't avoid one for the other. So that's also an element of that. Point number 5. What's interesting is in one of the ayahs, and I think it's Surah 3, verse 118, it says, when they meet you, do not be friends with them. When they meet you, they say we believe. But when they are alone, they bite their fingertips in rage against you. So hang on. When they're with you, they say what? we believe. In other words, what are they? Hypocrites. In other words, from the eye, what are they? Muslims. But Allah knows their reality in their heart. So actually this ayah wasn't talking about non-Muslims. That's another interesting thing. It's talking about enemies. Point number 6 is a very important point. If we say that those scholars who say, like this fatwa, that actually no, it's all non-Muslims, you cannot be friends with all non-Muslims, then I want to ask a question. Show me in the seerah, in the sunnah, how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, how he changed his way after these ayahs were revealed. There he is. He's there, he's interacting with non-Muslims. Then come these ayahs. How's he followed these ayahs? Where is it that he went up to someone who he used to know and say, you know, we used to be friends, but I'm sorry, I can't be friends with you now? Where is it in the seerah that I find this? I don't find it anywhere. Where is it that we find the Sahaba doing this? Where is it that the Sahaba say, you know, I can't come round to your house for dinner anymore, I'm afraid, because these ayahs have come down. Sorry. Sorry, I can't play now with you. You don't find this. You don't find a change in the attitude of the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ following these ayahs. In other words, these ayahs were talking about enemies, not about the average Jew, Christian, non-Muslim. If we say, again, I mean, I put two things down. Then point number 7. Who protected the Prophet ﷺ in Makkah against the Quraysh? They wanted to kill him. Who? Abu Talib. Who was Abu Talib? His uncle, who was he? What was he? A non-Muslim. He was a disbeliever. There is a small opinion, Sufi opinion, which regards him as a Muslim, and the Shia regard him as a Muslim. But if we leave that for one side, the mainstream, the hadith is clear in Sahih Muslim, he died as a non-Muslim. That's what we believe. So a non-Muslim protected the Prophet ﷺ. Did the Prophet ﷺ say to him, I know you protected me, uncle, but I'm afraid I can't be your friend? Find anything like that? So it's interesting. And after him, of course, Abbas, his other uncle. Who broke the boycott when the Prophet ﷺ was boycotted? Them? Banu Hashim were boycotted out for 2 to 3 years. Who broke the boycott? Non-Muslims. Non-Muslims went. Mutim bin Adi went and said to the Quraysh, look, you know, he's a non-Muslim. Why are we doing this? These are our brothers. And they then ended the boycott. Who endured the boycott with the Prophet ﷺ? The rest of Banu Hashim. Who were they? Non-Muslims. Very important point. Number 9. The Quran is very clear about following and respecting your parents. Well, most of the Sahaba, not all, their parents were non-Muslim. Well, could you not be friends with your parents? The Quran says, show compassion, lower the wings of humility. Lower the wings of humility to your parents. With compassion they brought you up. Lower the wings of humility to them. You know, so again, it doesn't make sense. Neighbors. The Prophet ﷺ said so many hadith about neighbors. Such an important arena. Neighbors will take many people to hellfire. And many people to heaven. How you are with your neighbor is such an important aspect of Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the best of you is the one who is best to his neighbor. Who? Non-Muslim, Muslim? Both. Didn't specify. It's Muslim, non-Muslim, doesn't matter. So neighbour, again, doesn't make sense that you can't be friends with your neighbour and you have to be the best to them. And I save the best till last, I always do. The best till last, because I think the best weapon against such a hardline opinion is the wife. The Prophet ﷺ, our book says, permitted for you is the food and the women of Ahlul Kitab. A Muslim man may marry a Jewish or a Christian woman. It's in the Quran. It's unanimous virtually. Everybody agrees. So let me get this right. How am I supposed to be with my wife, my Christian wife, if I do marry one? I have to show her muwadda, love, rahmah, mercy. Can I be, if I had a Muslim wife and a non-Muslim wife, a Muslim wife and a Christian wife, can I be different to them? No. On the Day of Judgment, a man will come with half his body and he will scream, Ya Allah, half my body is not here. And the Prophet and Allah will say, you used to favor one wife over another. Very important. So can I favor my Christian wife over my Muslim wife and vice versa? No, I cannot. I have to treat them equally. So let me get this right. I can marry a Christian woman. I have to show her love, muwadda, because the Quran says. I have to show her mercy, rahmah, because the Quran says. With her I find sakina, because the Quran says tranquility, peace. I can share my most intimate secrets with her. I cannot differentiate between her and another Muslim wife, and yet I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't be your friend. Doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. The only way to make sense of these ayahs is if you take them, O you who believe, take not the Jews and Christians who are your enemies. The ones who hate you, don't take them as friends. The others, no problem. The others, no problem. Okay, thank you very much, alhamdulillah. I know I mean, this particular topic in the book is 55 pages. So I've only given you bits because I've gone into what Ibn Kathir has said about the different matters. And Ibn Kathir took quite a hard line on some of the issues and what different scholars have said. May Allah guide us to always improve our understanding of His beloved deen and to always guide us to the best, inshallah. Jazakumullah for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair, Ustadh. That was a very refreshing and different viewpoint to, as Ustadh said, what we may be used to hearing, and a very important topic, especially in today's climate, where there are factions on both sides whose aim may be the same. Are there any questions? There should be lots of questions.
There are those who say it's fine, okay, there are other religions, but you can't spend time learning about other religions because you need to focus on Islam. That's your only concern. So leave that. You haven't got time for them. They're not people. You know, they were people of the book, but not anymore. So they were people of the book, but not anymore. So how do you
Will I just repeat? Yeah. So Brother Subhan has asked, there are people who say that you shouldn't spend time learning about other religions because...
Not learning.
Yeah.
Learning about it.
Yeah, learning about other religions because they're now no longer truly people of the book.
Yeah, as you talk about, do not spend time with them.
Yeah, two elements. One was why bother learning about other religions?
Right.
You know, when the only thing you should focus on is Islam, and by extension of that, don't have anything to do with them because
Two totally different things. I mean, the first is about learning about faith and other religions, and in school now the curriculum is such, and I used to teach GCSE religious studies for almost 10 years, and then I taught A-level Islamic studies or religious studies for about 8 years. So the curriculum now is such that at GCSE level, by the GCSE level, you'll know about 5 or 6 different world religions anyway. Beyond that, really, I mean, it's what interests you, but the idea is always to make sure you understand your own deen properly first. Because someone who is on shaky ground doesn't really know themselves, the wind will come and it'll sweep you aside. So make sure you know who you are, what you're about, and then by all means, if you want to, if you're interested in that kind of thing, and I did my master's in theology and religious studies, so because I'm quite interested in religions, and you can specialize in those fields. And some people specialize in, and I found personally, the more I specialize in different, I found the beauty of my own religion. And it's such a powerfully intellectual religion, ours is. Such a powerfully intellectual religion. So the first is learning. Make sure you know who you are, get yourself grounded in your own particular faith, learn the elements of it, try and understand and ask the question why. Brilliant books available about why do we pray? Why do we fast? Yeah, ask those questions, get solidified in yours, and then by all means have a look if you wanted to have a look. The second is if the Prophet ﷺ had adopted the attitude of not being bothered about other religions, we wouldn't be here. We would not be here. If the Prophet ﷺ said, and he came back from Jabal Nur, if he said to Khadija, and Khadija became Muslim, if he said, right, that's it, let's protect ourselves, nobody would be here. But our religion says that on the Day of Judgment, the people that we come across will stand before Allah and they will say, so this is very important, it's important for me and it's important for you. The people we come across on the Day of Judgment will stand, non-Muslims. And Allah will maybe condemn them. And Allah knows best how He will judge. But then they will say, if they condemn, they will say, Ya Allah, Ahtsham was with us. He knew me for 2 years, but he never told me anything about you or your religion. And Allah will blame me for that. So our religion is one which always invites people to Islam. It's what the Prophet ﷺ did. He started a huge avalanche. He started a revolution. And they carried on to this day. People are doing dawah here and there. You're doing it by being Muslim. In your school you think, well, I haven't told anybody. But actually, by you being a good Muslim, you're telling people. I love when I come across non-Muslims who become Muslim, I always ask, what made you Muslim? I like to hear. It's quite interesting. And I came across this guy, he converted when he was about 60 years old. And I said to him, what made you convert? He goes, it's a long story, really. I said, we've got a half an hour, so tell me. So he said, well, actually, it was about 1971 when it first started. And it was just a little thing, and I never thought about it again. I said, what was it? He goes, I used to be a bank clerk, and this guy came in, Muslim. He asked for some money. He had to fill out these forms. So I gave him some money, and instead of, I can't remember, £20, I gave him £25 by mistake. Off he went. And then later on he came back and he said, oh, you've given me 25 instead of 20. So I said, oh my God, thank you very much, because it would have shown up in the end of day accounting. He said, he says, you didn't have to come back. Why did you come back? He goes, no, I had to come back. I'm a Muslim. He said, it just stuck there. And I did nothing about it for almost 20 years. And then at work, this Muslim arrived, and I started talking to him. And then the third thing, he said, I was given some book. It was interesting, just interesting, that man who walked out of that bank. When he walked out of that bank and he carried on with his life, he doesn't know him, he never met again. Yet on the day of judgment, that man, that Muslim, will take the reward, some reward for that bank clerk converting, because he was an honest man. So you never know how your actions will impact other people. So as our religion is one about always interacting. We're not people, we're not hermits who go off into mountains and say, I'm going to look after myself and that's it. We don't do that.
Any other questions? Okay, in which case I have a question. You touched upon...
You don't have to invent a question.
No, it's not invented.
Oh.
You touched upon the sunnah of dress, which, as you said, there's probably a lot of difference upon.
Yeah.
But are there any instances of the Prophet ﷺ wearing any clothes which are from a culture other than his own?
Yeah, the Prophet ﷺ received, used to wear a cloak from Yemen. He used to love that. He also received some cloth from Egypt when Maria Kupti came. So yeah, he did wear this and that. I think the point I was trying to make is that we saw the Prophet ﷺ described, and Tirmidhi in his Shama'il, this beautiful description. And we see that he wore the jubbah, and the Sahaba wore jubbah, and so on. So we said, that's the Prophet ﷺ. Look how he looks. I love the Prophet ﷺ. I want to look like he looked. So people started wearing jubbah, etc., out of love for him, because that's what he wore. And over centuries, that look became the look of Sunnah. This is the Sunnah dress. This is what the Prophet ﷺ wore. If you want to be like him, you wear what he wore, dress like he dressed. That's one way, definitely, without a shadow, that's one way of looking at it. What I'm saying is look at it from a totally different way. There's the Prophet ﷺ. He wore a jubbah and he wore that. Why did he wear that? He wore that because the people around him, i.e. the non-Muslims initially, wore that. So in other words, he in his mind was wearing what non-Muslims around him wore. So the sunnah was actually to wear what the people around him wear. I love the Prophet ﷺ. I'm going to follow his way. What do the non-Muslims and what do my people wear? I'll wear that. That's the sunnah way. You see the two ways. Can you understand both how people have perceived? And both are perfectly acceptable. As we said, we're a tolerant people. We can see different viewpoints. But it's just that this viewpoint is very, very different. And people have heard it, but it's also plausible. Yeah.
If there's no further questions, okay, so
with groups such as like the EDL at the moment, they have this like No More Mosques in Britain campaign going on, and one of their arguments will be, we let you build mosques here, but you won't let us build a church over there, kind of thing. So where's that kind of come from, and what is the actual counter to that?
Yeah. Sorry? Yeah, the question is that with EDL and the far right, often one of the allegations that they make against Muslims is, we let you build mosques here, but you won't let us build churches there. So it's not fair. And the answer to that really is, depends where you go now. So I've just come from Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, they will not. But I say unfortunately, but actually I can quite understand it, because they don't have Christians. Why do you want to build a church where there's no Christians? Yeah. There's no Christian community in Saudi Arabia. There may be expats and they allow them their particular chapels and so on. But an EDL needs to be taken to Damascus. I went to Damascus. I've been to Damascus in Egypt and Tunisia. And Damascus, because I'm quite interested in religions, I made a list of all the ziyarah I wanted to see, and then I made another list of all the sites of Christianity I wanted to see, because that was the foundation of Christianity, Damascus. That's where St. Paul is supposed to have converted, etc., etc. So I went to all these, and I went to visit, I'll tell you, I went to visit a monastery. The monastery was on top of a big mountain. Down below, we were dressed in t-shirts. It was so warm. And when we went up the mountain, I went with my dad and my family, and when we went up the mountain, at the top I threw a snowball at my son. That's how cold it was up there. And there was a monastery there. And I knocked on the door and nobody answered. Eventually somebody answered. It was a monk. He called us in. He gave us, and that monastery's been there since the 8th century. Muslims protected that monastery to allow Christians to worship. And I'll tell you the most shocking bit, and I've got a video, so if anybody wants to see it. As we were sitting there, now he showed me around the chapel, and we sat there and talked and everything. And as he's leaving, I said, as we were leaving, sorry, I said, my name's Ahtsham, we shook hands. I said, what's your name? So he told me his name. I said, I hope you don't mind, Father, if I could please video you saying your name, because no one will believe it. He said, yeah, sure. So I opened the video and I videoed him, and I've got it. So I said, what's your name? And he said, my name is Father Jihad. And he said, it's a jihad coming up and down the mountain. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, and now he's there. That's what EDL need to see. The Copts in Egypt, they need to see how we have protected minorities. But it depends where you go. And certainly it is not true. It is fundamental right of any Christian community living in any Islamic state. If they wish to have a place of worship, we have to grant them that right. And I'll tell you where it goes controversial. We all agree that a Christian and Islamic state has always, when you track your history back, we have always allowed Christians churches, breweries to make their alcohol, and pig farms for their pigs. Where this whole thing is very interesting goes the other way. And in my book I've put a special section in. This is controversial, but it's interesting. I said I can marry a Christian woman. So let me imagine, I've married a Christian woman, Catherine. Tell me something. On the Day of Judgment, do I have to, will Allah ask me, did you feed her? Yes, He will. Because it's my duty to feed, clothe, etc. Give her anything that she needs. Correct? Okay. She wants bacon. Does her Sharia allow bacon?
No.
So here is a dilemma that fuqaha, our scholars, debated because they couldn't understand. It was difficult to wrestle with this. My Sharia doesn't, but her Sharia does. The state allows the pig farm, so in my home, what do I allow? Some scholars said, no, you cannot, and one of the conditions that you must put in the marriage contract is she cannot bring alcohol into the house, neither can she have bacon. But there's a problem with this. The problem is the Quran allowed it. The Quran allowed marriage, didn't it? But nowhere in our seerah is there any mention of a contract. Nowhere in our seerah does it say you're only allowed to marry if you have. So some scholars, and some of the Maliki scholars, very interesting, some of the early Maliki scholars have said, if she needs bacon, you must provide her, you cannot buy it. Neither can you buy the alcohol, because that's haram in your Sharia. But you must say, here's your monthly allowance. She can go buy it. That's very interesting. Now let's move further a bit. Her Bible's torn and tattered, she needs a new Bible. I have to buy it for her. Again, allowance. She needs to go to church on a Sunday. And now here, this is very interesting, the church on a Sunday, most scholars are agreed upon, apart from a small group. I have to drive her to the church. And you can't get a beautiful deal like that. Such a tolerant deal. So,
just to announce next week's talk, we'll continue with the progression in the series, hopefully, inshallah. Next week's talk is on the role of the Muslims in the UK, integrate or segregate. by Abdul Hamid Qureshi, who is chairman of the Lancashire Council of Mosques. And that will be at the same time after ASR, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for attending. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.